Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to the Acceptable channel. Today, it's gonna be a different topic than usual. That's very ominous. But let me first off say this is not pointed towards anybody whatsoever. It's just time that I thought that there should be a public service announcement about this. And again, it's not targeted to anybody specific. At least it's not meant to be. I'm going to be talking about my kidney problems, which I've talked about in the past. And for me personally, I've talked with my friends about this a couple days ago. And yeah, sorry, pop-ups. And the general thought when I was asking them what they actually knew when I said renal failure and dialysis. Well, one guy thought that it meant something to do with water or retaining water, something along those lines, which is kind of correct, but not really. But anyways, dialysis is where you have this perm cath, either I have scars here, either left side or right side, right in this region. I don't know if this is called the pectoral muscle, but anyways, and it's a tube called a permacath. Some people say perm cath. And maybe you guys not pleased with me saying this, but it's a tube that goes in your chest directly into your heart. I forget which tube. I don't think it's called the tube, but I forget my anatomy at this moment. But my beard looks redder on camera than in real life. Anyway, sorry, I like getting distracted. But like I said, it's a tube that goes directly into your heart. Now, another one is, I forget if they go in your legs or other parts of your body, but they take, let me get in the camera here, they take two veins, artery and vascular, I think I said that right, and basically make two huge arteries here in your arms. I forget if they do it at the top or on the bottom, but anyways, they put that in there so they can use large needles to put in there to have dialysis that way. And there's also a third kind called peritoneal, which goes into your stomach cavity, which is between your stomach and your outer wall. I think I'm saying that, which is called the renal cavity, something like that. Pardon me. But I won't be going on that. I've seen that done. My father was on it for years. I don't know how he did so well. But anyways, I'm going to be getting the permcath one. And it's one big tube, but it's two smaller tubes that goes into your heart. And one slightly longer than the other. So it's an inlet and outlet. And on the outside, there are two tubes that have clamps on it, and two caps, a red and a blue. And those are called ports. And what happens is when you're on dialysis is you're usually hooked up to a machine. That's either, depending on which side that they put you on. It's about 5 foot tall, roughly, on wheels, and it has like a arm type thing on it, and that's where the filter is. And then it has like a little circulating pump in it that takes your blood, and it's slow enough that you don't really feel it, but it's fast enough to pull fluid, or in other words urine, since your body's not making urine anymore. Well, I'm still technically making urine, but it's not filtering it, but I'm not producing a lot of urine. So the machine is hooked up to sodium bicarb or something like that, and some other type of fluid to pull off this stuff and drain it out. And you can be on it for like so many hours and so many days. Back before this transplant, I was on it. My prior transplant was May 4th, 2008. Prior to that, I was on dialysis for 2.5 years. In short, I almost didn't make it. One, because the dialysis unit screwed up. I'll get into that later probably. But I was going for 4 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, for 4 hours at a time. Now, after treatment, you feel like crap. You don't want to do anything. You mainly just want to rest, and you really don't want to eat per se. You can feel sick, nauseated, even throwing up. Really weak. Just a lot of different things. But that's pretty much the short end of how dialysis work. Now, renal failure is the scientific term, basically. It basically means your kidneys are shutting down or have shut down. Another term for it is end-stage renal disease. And yes, disease, and I got teased like crazy as a kid about this. It's not, what I had is not a type of disease that can be spread through like coughing or saliva or blood transfusions or anything like that. What I have is called polycystic kidney disease. Some people say polycystic kidneys so they can leave off the disease, or they say PKD. But in short, it's a disease that you are born with. That's the only way you can get it, is it's transferred from your parents' DNA, whether your father had it or your mother had it. On me, I was unlucky. My father had it, but he didn't go into failure until he was my age now. I think he was like actually 2 years older, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember. It was a long time ago. this is a lot of info, and this is probably going to be a very long video because I'm trying to help everybody learn about this. I just lost my thought. Yeah, with end-stage renal, what with me, PKD, polycystic kidneys disease, it's basically an abnormal, well, for me it was 2 abnormal kidneys. They got to the size of professional footballs, literally probably about this big, bigger than my freaking head. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see the pictures. But the doctors who did the nephrectomies on me, which nephrectomy means removal of at least kidney, if not organ. I think it's at least kidney. They were just absolutely amused at how big my kidneys were. Anyway, that I want to sidetrack. Silly pop-ups. But polycystic kidneys is, like I said, where it's abnormal and large, and there are cysts on them. And a cyst, CYST, is basically little blood pockets that's connected to the kidneys. Now, ever so often, I kind of attribute it to like when a girl is having her period. I'm gonna be blunt here. I don't care. But they would pop, and without me doing anything, whether I would just be sleeping or standing, doing whatever, not like pushing my stomach or whatever, they would just pop. And I would get really intense pain, stabbing pain. And for like a few days, 3-4 days, maybe a week, I would pee out blood. It usually wasn't fresh blood. It would be a brownish color, because it would be like old blood, if that makes sense. But that's what I was born with. The first time that it was noticed was when I was 9. And I was peeing blood. And they wasn't sure why. I went through all these specialists and stuff, and finally went to St. Louis Children's Hospital, I think it was, and finally got diagnosed with polycystic kidneys. That was not fun. And then basically at age 19, they failed. So, because the doctor at the time had told me I could take aspirin for pain instead of just Tylenol, which I kind of regret taking. And aspirin's a natural blood thinner, so I peed a little bit longer, or bled a little longer than normal, and I was worried that it wasn't going to stop, and I was also clotting, which is quite strange. But yeah. So, anyways, I'm going to jump to a slightly different subject. Now, there is there's more than 10, but I'm going to start with 10. Now, back to what I was saying when I was talking to my friends, when I'm like, okay, well, you know what dialysis is, a renal failure, that kind of thing. And all they would say was like, well, I'm sorry to hear that. I hope everything works out, that kind of thing. So it wasn't really sure what it was. But I'm like, so if I said like cancer or lupus or heart disease or any number of things, which I'm going to read from the list, but one I can't see on YouTube because they've gotten really strict about it. But they're like, yeah, we know exactly what you mean, like with cancer. We know what it is. Depends on if you tell them where it's at or whatever. And they know what possible treatments you're going to get, like chemo or what have you, radiation, and what could eventually happen to you if the treatments do not work. Well, in short, renal failure is very close to cancer, because right after I got my transplant, I think it was about 2 years into it, I met a friend who has now passed away 6+ years ago, I want to say. It's been a long time. But he was going through cancer. He had battled it once, and he overcome it. But the second time, it took his life, because it finally got into his lymph nodes and stuff. But anyways, he was describing what he felt after the treatment, and it was exactly the same as when you're on dialysis. At least how I felt when I was on dialysis. Some people might feel differently. But yeah, like I said, you get nausea, wanting to sleep a lot because you're just exhausted, because you've really had, like a better term, your life force drained from you. Vampires sucking on you. And there's not much you want to do. So curl up in the freaking ball and yeah. But anyways, this is the top 10, top 10 causes of death in the United States. Number 1 with being heart disease. Number 2 being cancer. 3, accidents, as in like car accidents or stuff like that. Traffic accidents. Chronic lower respiratory diseases. Strokes. Alzheimer's disease is number 6. Number 7 is diabetes. So far, everything here to 7, everybody talks about probably in a day-to-day life in discussions, because they usually know someone who has it. And interesting thing, renal failure is in the top 10. And most people don't know about it, which is shocking to me. But anyways, 8 is influenza and pneumonia, or other words, flu and I don't think there's any other word for pneumonia. Number 9 is kidney disease, or renal disease, which is I have. And number 10, I can't say the word, but it's another word for taking your own life. And people talk about this a lot. And I mean a lot. But it's interesting between the diabetes and taking your own life discussions. People talk more about that, but I haven't heard anybody else talk about kidney disease. And this is from last November, where I'm getting this from. It's from healthline.com. And last year, or I don't know if this is an average, but over 50,000 people die a year from renal failure. And it can be chronic conditions with, for me, it's BKD and having a transplant. And it could include diabetes. I don't have diabetes. I have high blood pressure is another one. And recurrent kidney infections. But my kidneys failure was not caused by diabetes. Yes, I'm overweight. But I had this well before I got overweight. The survival rate for being on dialysis is 5 to 10 years. For me, if I had not gotten that transplant, the cadaver, which means, like a better term, a dead person's organ, within the 2.5 years, I would have died. I was that close. And there was a lot of people around me dying that was older than me, and most of them were on dialysis because of their age, which they also had diabetes, and so their body really couldn't handle it. So yeah, I got lucky, and since I'm in the condition I am now, I don't think, well, I don't know. But anyways, the survival rate, or the, how was it put? Some people, depending on age and condition and all that stuff, average is 5 to 10 years. Some people can go longer. Somehow my father went longer. I don't know how. But yeah. And you have a better quality of life if you have a living donor. Come on. A living donor that gives you a transplant. Granted, you can't give them a heart while you're living. I don't think you can give a lung while you're living. I forget about any other organ in your body. But you can live a lot longer because dialysis is very stressful on the body compared to having a functioning kidney. And if you know someone who is in need of a kidney transplant, I strongly urge you that you go have yourself tested to see if possibly you are compatible with the person, because you could be giving life to the person who is in need of a kidney transplant. Now, there's a lot of circumstance around that. It's a very, very hard decision, but it can be a very positive decision to make, because it brings someone back to life. Or otherwise, how I see it, when you're on dialysis, at least this is personally, it's basically a sentence to death. Because since we don't have that technology yet, it's out there, but it's not up to where we need it to be. To grow our own kidneys. If we were able to grow our own kidneys in like a lab setting and transplant into ourselves, then we would no longer have to have a living donor. And we wouldn't have to take medicines, anti-rejection meds, which I have a box of them over there, that's why I'm looking down there, to help your body stop your body from rejecting the foreign body that's inside your body. Because your body sees that, oh, this is part of you, so I'm not going to attack it and try to get rid of it. So, less likely of transplant failures. Like I said, no longer taking meds, at least anti-rejection meds. And just like easier overall. But if you're not comfortable or ready to make that step to give a kidney or any organ, well, probably not any organ while you're living, if after you leave this world, and it's a lot more than signing the back of your license saying that you want to be an organ donor. There's a lot more you have to do to set it up to get this done. I think you have to talk with your doctor or something to have it put in your chart or whatever, to make sure that your organs can be donated to other people who may need it when you pass on. So that's very important. Just don't only sign the back of your license, because that pretty much in this day and age doesn't really mean anything per se. So you have to fully complete it. It's a process. But it's better for the person on the receiving end to get a living donor, because a living kidney will have less trauma to it. It'll be much quicker to, because I've been on both spectrums. I've had a living and a cadaver donor, and the cadaver was a lot better, because within like, what was it, a short span of time, my kidney, the living kidney, just started right up. But with the cadaver, it took nearly a month, and this was just my case. It took nearly a month before it completely jump-started. A lot of the doctors said, and kind of jokingly said, that it got freezer burned. Because I was actually supposed to have the transplant on May 3rd, but there was a delay in getting it here or something like that, so I had to wait till May 4th. to get it. And on a transplant, at least in the mid central transplant region, whatever it's called, it can take 2.5 years, maybe longer, to get a cadaver transplant. That's how much we as renal patients need kidneys. For me, I want to say 3 or 4 phone calls because I was at the top of the list. Finally, after 1.5 or 2 years, my name finally got to the top of the list, because unfortunately people were passing away from accidents, which is another way to get it. But anyways, since I was on, like I said, top of the list. Sorry, I'm scrambled brain now, because there's a lot of information I want to get out, but it's just like hard to pick which one. But it was disheartening after I would go there like 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 8 p.m. and wait around for like 4 or 6 hours, then get told, unfortunately, you're not a match. And then it would go down the list to find a better match to go with that person. And now that when you have a kidney transplant, and if that's the only organ that you're being replaced with, you only get one kidney. Now, if you have multiple organs like heart, lungs, liver, I forget some of the other ones, they usually give you both the kidneys, basically a full person's insides almost, from what I've read. I could be wrong about that, but that's what I've read. But they don't give you both or 2 kidneys from cadaver, just one, because you can live with one kidney. Alright, let's talk about the point system. Well, it's not really a point system, but when you're donating, or receiving, whichever the case may be, to be compatible, you have to have the same blood type. There's this number thing which I can't remember what it is for, but the higher the number, the better success rate you have in your body accepting the kidney. Like, this was weird. When I had my living donor transplant, as far as I know, my family is not related to her. And there's 3 numbers. 1 means it's a family member or a relative that's related to you. And then the second one, they're kind of related, so it's number 2. And 3, they're not related at all. Something along those lines. I forget exactly. It's been over 10 years almost. But this lady who gave me the living transplant back in 2004, something like that, she was a 1. And again, 1 means they're either related to you or they're a relative or a like brother or sister kind of thing. Father, daughter, father, mother, there we go. But she was just a family friend that we've known for, at that time, like 4 years or something, 5 years. And yeah, we was all shocked. But with this cadaver one, it was a 3. Um, so but let's see what else. Um, hmm. But yeah. Well, let's talk about the diet. When you're on a renal diet or a kidney specific diet, um, you have to stay away from high potassium stuff. You can eat low potassium, sometimes medium potassium stuff. But the higher potassium stuff, the two biggest ones are potatoes, which I kind of like potatoes, and bananas, which I like bananas. They're very high in potassium. And since your kidney or kidneys is no longer filtering out the toxins and stuff, and your body, since you can't urinate that out or filter it out, like I said, it basically floats in your body and builds up. And if you have too much potassium in your blood, which I had that at one time back before I got this transplant, it can really mess with your heart, and eventually you can have like a heart attack kind of thing, or heart shutdown, which, yeah, that's a scary, scary thing. I had that back in 2007. Yeah, I think it was 7. Um, but yeah, let's go back to what I was talking about. Um, a video that I had done months ago. Um, there was a girl in there saying that, oh, you'll be fine. You don't need to like freak out. Um, you can take some herbs to fix the kidney. Well, that may be all well and true, and yes, there are certain herbs, not herbal supplements, because those have who knows what, but I'm talking about like the spices and herbs, that kind of thing, because there's some specific ones out there that can remove the creatinine, which is a plus. I haven't personally tried it. I researched it as a natural thing, but in my case, it would not fix my transplant kidney, because once a kidney has a rejection episode, or in my case, I had 2 rejection episodes almost a year ago now, something like that won't help. If it would help, it would not help a lot, because it's based on the kidney function, and there's no way for the kidney to rejuvenate itself. So, yeah, it's not as simple as that. And is there anything else? When I had no kidney whatsoever in me, until this transplant, I was not urinating. So, oddly enough, I missed taking a pee, however funny or disgusting that may be. But now there's a trade-off with that. And I won't go into great detail, but but when you go number 2, you can have extremely hard stools, because since dialysis takes fluid off, sometimes they can take slightly too much, and your stool or your poop can be very hard and hard to pass. And I've had that instance a couple times. And again, this was before. I am currently 430 pounds. I'm gaining weight, because you can't see my feet or my legs right now, but they're massive. And that's not due because I was losing weight. I was about to hit under 400. But since my kidney has basically shut down now, I'm retaining fluid. So the more fluid I retain, it's going to go up. So, and I was 220 or less when I was on dialysis the first time for 2.5 years. So that was basically my baseline weight, or 110 kilograms. Because, yeah, they deal in kilos. But, another odd thing that happened to me while I was on dialysis, well, let's just say, to try to keep it clean here, you can't have fun time with yourself or anybody else, because the time that I tried, I freaking passed out and hit my head. That was not fun. That freaked me out. Probably because my blood pressure dropped because of you know what. And these are just my personal experiences. This could be different for other people. But yeah, that's all I can think of. But in short, if you're thinking about donating an organ or organs, make sure, besides signing the back of your license, make sure you talk with your doctor about it, and make sure you fill out paperwork to make sure it's a go. When something does happen to you, they can make someone else's life better. I guess that's the best way to put it. And if you're thinking about possibly giving a kidney, just think about it long and hard, because the person who needs it, they can't wait forever for it, because dialysis is a very serious thing. And that's another thing. You may have a 5 to 10 year longevity on it, but each year you're on it, your increased fatality rate goes up 20 or 30%, something like that, from what I was reading. But if you are strongly thinking and know someone who is in need of a kidney, I strongly suggest you think long and hard about it. Because, yes, in the end, ultimately, it is your decision, but you'd be giving the person a new lease on life. Yeah. That's about it. It's like 45 minutes now. I'm not the best at explaining stuff. If you made it this far, I tried my best. And again, I must iterate that I'm not targeting anybody whatsoever about this. It's just something that I felt that needed to be said, because I was talking not just with one person, but with like about 20 different of my friends, and getting feedback from them, what they knew about the kidney problems, renal disease, dialysis, transplant, what have you. And I felt like this needed to be said, since even though it's number 9 in 10 things in the US that causes death, that it's not well talked about for some reason compared to heart disease, cancer, Alzheimer's, taking your own life, flu, pneumonia, lupus, all kinds of stuff. And that saddens me, and it's starting to creep up. Oh, and a little bit more tidbit of information. Now, if you are an African American or black person, I'm not trying to be racist here, but anyways, you have a higher chance of getting PKD than somebody else. Hispanics are in there too. They're like 1.5%. Asians are 1.6%. What was it? Mexicans 1.8%, or Spanish. But yeah, renal disease is slightly on the rise, and there's a map that shows how many people die from renal disease each year. I forget which state had the most, but a lot of states had a lot of people passing away. But yeah, if you want more questions, feel free to post them in the comments, and I'll do another video if I get enough of them. Or if you want to have other questions, or those questions as well, you can go to nkf.org, I think it's called, nationalkidneyfoundation.org. And there's a lot of regions, but you can go to their site. There's like a little message thing, and you can talk to them if you have any questions about it. But a lot of the major cities, and I want to say in every single state, has some sort of transplant hospital. I was lucky enough to have one here in Columbia, Missouri. After I moved, the nearest one is Charlotte, I want to say, which would be like a 6-hour drive. But yeah, it's usually a teaching hospital that has transplant hospitals attached to it, at least from what I've read. But that's all I can think of. And a little side note here, for any of you silly trolls watching out there, I am on disability because of my kidneys. That's all I will say. And this is a real thing. Look it up if you don't believe me, because it's real. But I hope you found this video informative. If you stayed this long, I guess give me a like, and please seriously look into donating your organs if something happens to you, and not just sign the back of your license. Talk with your doctor. But yeah, I guess that's it for now. I've rambled on for 51 minutes. But yeah. Anyways, thanks for watching, everybody. And in less than 2 weeks, I'll be on dialysis unless I can get a transplant. So, yeah. Anyways, I love you all. Thanks for watching, and God bless everybody. Bye.